What does it mean to you that you met her and knew her, and where are we at now with disability studies, and where do we need to go?
I don't really know the answer to those questions. I have left my spending time figuring out. Yes, I have looked back at sometimes to see what's disability studies doing at Truman, but I have for many years rather just focused on the Democratic Party. I helped work for Obama for his re-election, and I didn't really do much on disability issues about that.
Why do you think that changed? Why did you step away from it?
Well, when I came to Truman, after a while, I was discriminated against, and I totally realized that, and I had David as my professor, as my lawyer. And then I started working at Paraquat, and I got really sort of disillusioned about what an independent living center was, if Paraquat was the best that it could be. And then, then I did end up at Impact, which really was great as an independent living center, because it was run by Dick Goodwin, who was sort of similar almost to Ed Roberts in his thinking, and he was not an elitist like Max was. And so the independent living movement here in the city, at least, did not encompass really a diverse group of people.
So do you think in part you stepped away from focusing on disability because of ableism, because of discrimination and how it affected the wider world, Truman, but also the disability movement itself?
I felt that the disability independent living center part of the disability movement did not focus enough on Black people or other minorities.
Mm-hmm.
That was very disappointing to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know how to, when I was at Paraquat, I hired Rochelle to come here and work. And the fact that she wasn't appreciated by the people in charge at Paraquat, that was very sad.
So just zooming out for a second, when you look at all of that, Truman, Paraquat, Rochelle, and we go back again to this question of where are we at with disability studies when something could happen where you are pulled out of it? And where do we need to go?
We should ask Carol about that, because Carol...
Totally, but right now, I just want to notice your whatever the truth is for you right now, even if it's I don't know.
Well, it really is I don't know, but I think too that the independent living movement has become much less relevant and has not managed to become enough of a activism group. There are parts like Not Dead Yet and some people that adapt, that really got some things moved, and Deborah was fully part of that.
Yeah.
And got arrested several times, and I never did. I never went to any place where I could get arrested.
Do you think that this is somewhat like what Judy was saying, that other movements, like let's say Black Lives Matter, that they are going to need to embrace and understand and include disability movement?
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with her on that.
Uh-huh.
I think that there have been some parts of other movements that have tried that. So, for example, the women's movement, there has been, it isn't really happening anymore, but for many, many years, BJ used to go to this women's music festival in Michigan,
Uh-huh.
and they have a big, huge camp that they set up every summer, and there was a totally accessible disability part of that camp.
Uh-huh.
So they were aware of including disabled women in that part of the women's movement, for sure.
Uh-huh.
But it wasn't necessarily all that widespread. Deborah Cunningham and I at some point went to a NOW meeting
Uh-huh.
in Memphis, and they clearly were not interested in us.
Yeah, so maybe we'll leave with this question for you to think about too. It's like, what would the world look like if it had fulfilled the promise of what that thought you were having back in North Carolina in the mid-70s, or the late 70s, where you were thinking, this needs to be a cultural issue. What would the world look like now? Or what would the world look like if it had fulfilled that kind of vision, if that idea were to fully take hold? And you can answer it right now, and we can keep coming back to that question.
Yeah, I might want to think about it, but I think that there would be more people in higher places in terms of policy, development, and more David Newbergers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because so he is running the disability office out of the mayor's office
Mm-hmm.
here in St. Louis, and I think many places the people who run those offices are not disabled.
So bringing disability into academia could have the effect of more disabled people being more policymakers?
Getting the background to understand disability issues on all kinds of levels, both practical and theoretical and political.
By bringing it into academia?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. That's powerful.
I think so.
Yeah.
Thank you for the questions.
Thank you for answering. Thank you for thinking and being.
Yeah, I think I've done a lot of thinking in my life, but I think that I have sort of shifted more towards memories now than...
Thank you for remembering.